There are two things I would recommend, and these are the two things I actually push in my classes. First one is walk around and find things to be grateful for. Do a gratitude journal. Even if you only write down one thing a day and the rest of your day is crappy, start with a gratitude journal. The second one is look in the mirror and remind yourself that you are a wonderful, beautiful being. Because, see, God doesn't make junk.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tapping into another episode of the Mindful Moneymakers podcast, where we give you all the tips, tricks, and mindset shifts you need to make if you want to live by design instead of by default. Today, we're meeting with another very special guest. Michelle Benavidez is a Gold Star mother who dedicates her time to volunteer work with other Gold Star family members. Her mission is to bring more love and peace. Her mission is to bring more love and peace into people's lives, help them deal with grief, and teach them that even though a loved one has passed, they're never truly gone. Michelle's insights and experiences offer a powerful perspective on coping with loss and finding peace. Michelle, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed. I've been looking forward to this conversation and jumping into your work around helping people with very difficult experiences. I know that, the loved ones I've lost, closest to me is my father.
Mm-hmm.
I understand how difficult that can be, especially when you're dealing with somebody who pretty much laid their life down on the line for other people. They sacrificed themselves. So I'm very interested in getting to know you and getting to know how you work. But before we get started, I kind of want to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about yourself. How did you get started? How did you get into this? What inspired you? What are you creating right now, and where are we headed?
Well, I've actually been a practicing medium my whole life. Didn't realize the whole world didn't do this, and didn't realize until I was a young adult that people think it's weird. I don't think it's weird. It's what I do. I got inspired to do the work I do now because I lost my son in '08 in Iraq. Being around so many people with so much loss and so much grief, I thought there's got to be a way to help these people. Through my spirituality and through my meditation practices and the classes I teach, I've learned how to, well, I have conversations with my son all the time. The people that leave us never really leaves us. Energy does not, you can't kill energy. Energy doesn't die. Everything is energy, vibrations. I firmly believe the most powerful force in the universe is love. And you can call it spirit, great spirit, God. I was raised Native American. My dad was an Indian. So I say the great spirit. I believe it loves us so much that why would you take my child, knowing how much it hurts me, and not let me still feel their presence in my life? I did drop my spirituality for a few years because, understandably, after my son was killed, God and I had a little bit of a disagreement, or the Great Spirit and I weren't necessarily getting along so well. I have found in my life when I don't stick to my spirituality practices, that's when my life is not at its best. When I include spirituality practices, that's when my life is wonderful. And even though I've had traumas in my past, and the worst I would say is losing my child, I am in one of the best places I could ever be. I feel so much love around me. I feel so much peace and happiness. I have worked through the grieving process. Will I ever get over grieving my son? No, you never get over it. You learn how to manipulate maybe that energy. You learn how to communicate with spirit. And I think that alleviates the pain in your heart. And that is something that I strive to share with all. Right now, I work at the Gold Star community and a veterans organization. I do all of this through American military families. We do classes. I teach classes. They are free of charge if you are a veteran or military. And I am working on trying to offer this to the general public. And I'm babbling and I apologize for that. So hopefully you can edit that out. Gosh, I wear so many hats, it's not even funny. I basically teach you how to clean out your own garbage so that you're open to spirit, so that you can receive the gifts that spirit wants us to have. Spirit wants us to have the life we want for ourselves. And I absolutely believe we create our own reality through our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So, what I'm trying to do is to teach people how to counteract the negative thoughts, how to feel better about themselves and life in general, and how to just have better emotions.
That's so powerful and so beautiful. And I feel so aligned to your mission, as I do believe that your thoughts are a major contributing factor to the experience that you're having and the love that you're not only able to experience for yourself, but give to others. So I want to celebrate you one time for showing up in service to others in the most important way I think any of us could. You mentioned taking your pain and your biggest traumas and building a bridge for other people. I'm curious to know, like, how your being a gold star mother has shaped your perspective on life and your approach in your volunteer work.
Oh, wow. Um, when you lose, especially a child, but when you lose anyone that is a tremendous influence or a part of your life, you can go two ways. I've seen people get stuck in grief and negativity for years, or you can honor them. My mission in life is to live a life worth the sacrifice that the military families that I help honors them. So live a life worth their sacrifice, number one. Um, I just, again, sorry. Here's my absolute belief system. I believe that we are part of everything and everything is part of us. And that's the entire universe. You cannot kill energy. So, yes, I was put here on Earth School to learn lessons. And I think one of my lessons was to learn how to teach other people how to, number one, love themselves. You can't connect to anything positive till you learn how to love yourself and you learn about forgiveness. Those are hard pills for some people to swallow. In fact, I start all my classes with, I have you write down the 10 things you love the most. And then I give you a minute to write that down. And then I ask you, what number on that list are you? Until you learn to love yourself, forgive others, and get rid of all this negativity out of your life, you can't really connect completely with spirit. And if you are in a situation such as myself, where my son is now in spirit, my number one desire in life is to still have a relationship with him. I have this relationship with him. I'm going to be completely honest here. When my son was killed, I tried to commit suicide. The pain of grief is so bad that I didn't want to stay here. Well, that's not good because I have other kids and grandkids, and what am I trying to tell them? But it hurts so bad. So I had to get back into my spiritual practices. Spirit, why did this happen to me? Well, actually, it didn't happen to me. It happened to the world. You guys lost a wonderful human being in my son. But through that connection and learning how to reconnect with spirit, everything is love. And do I have my son here to hug and hold and kiss and smell his hair and tell him he needs to take a shower? No. But what I do have is I still have his spirit here, and we have honest to God conversations. I mean, he tells me stuff that then comes true, or he helps me figure out things. I also connect and communicate a lot with my guardian angels, the angel realm, and etc. What I have found that this does for Gold Star parents is it teaches you that they're still there. They're never going to be there the way we want them, but they're not gone completely, and you can still have a relationship with them, and you can learn how to get through the negative, low vibration energy of grief, which grief is an extremely low vibration, and it's not healthy. The way, if we keep ourselves in grief and those negative things, it manifests physically. I know several gold stars who have stayed in grief that are now going through horrendous health issues. So what my goal is to teach you, number one, how to get rid of that. Number two, live at a higher vibration. And number three, celebrate the fact that spirit loves you so much you can still communicate with your loved ones.
So beautiful, so powerful. So much to unpack there. But I want to kind of dive in to the actual transformation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of pay attention to what people that are listening right now might be
Mm-hmm.
thinking, right? Because there's a Gold Star family right now that's going to be inspired by the end of this conversation to go ahead and get in contact with you. So what are some of the common challenges that you see with Gold Star families? What do they face you know, when it comes to overcoming their grief?
Well, initially, a lot of it really is they get very, very angry with God. And I understand that. And I tell them, he's a big boy, he can handle it. Tell him how you feel. Start having conversations. The best way to slowly start transitioning is I will take a gold star, like I'm actually working with a gold star family currently. The trauma of what happened to their loved ones is what's stuck in their heads. So I take them back and I ask them, please concentrate on happy memories. Your child's entire life is not defined by how they died. It's defined by who they were before they died. Plus the fact when you lose a loved one in military service, I can't think of a greater cause. Now, whether you agree or disagree with the wars, that's an entirely separate conversation. But the fact is your child signed his name on the line and wanted to defend my freedom and my country. So if for no other reason than that, I have love and respect for him. But he shouldn't be defined by his last act of being killed. Who was he before that? I want to take you out of those memories of the sadness and the grief and start bringing you back to the memories of when he was a kid or when she was a kid or when they fell out of the tree. Get you out of the negative memories. And that is how we start the transition. And then we start from there, we go to gratitude. I find that if you can wake up every morning and find 3 or 4 things to just be grateful for. And sometimes I'm grateful for the fact that, well, I didn't run out of cat food and I had enough to put in the cat's bowl. Sometimes I'm grateful that, God, it's gorgeous outside, the sun rose. Sometimes I'm grateful that I got to sleep in an extra half an hour. It doesn't have to be difficult. Just be grateful. Be grateful for the flowers in your yard, whatever you can find to be grateful for. That is your best first step to start bringing yourself out of grief and trauma. Because when you lose a child to violence, like Gold Stars do, it is a secondary trauma. And you need to work past that. And then we work on your story. As humans, we forget that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. I call this Earth School, and I'm here to learn lessons. I'm learning one today with you. So, but yeah, we're in Earth School. We're learning lessons. We're not perfect. We're human. You're going to be sad, and that's okay. Give yourself some grace and love, and then let's go through the grief. You can't go around it. You can't go under it. You have to go through it. You absolutely have to go through it. And I do that by teaching. In fact, I'm starting a new class in a couple months where I teach you how to. We actually just came up with a name for my new class because we couldn't have one. But the class is called Learning to Live in Gratitude and Finding Your Heart Center. And if you take any issue, whether it's a lost loved one, whether it's whatever traumas are in your life, let's just say you're struggling 9 to 5, you got 10 jobs, you can barely pay the rent, so on and so forth, and you live in this negative mindset, that affects everything. So if you can learn to just live in a little bit of gratitude and start connecting to your heart, I can't, there aren't words in the English language to explain to you what this has done for mine and other people's lives. I have more peace. I have more joy. Does that mean that I don't have sorrow and that I don't still grieve? Absolutely. While I was actually getting ready for this yesterday, kind of cleaning up my room, I came across a photo album of all my son's baby pictures. So I allowed myself to sit down in the middle of my closet and I bawled my eyes out for an hour. Am I going to carry that with me for the rest of the day? No. But you know what I did carry with me? His beautiful smiling face while he was on his big wheel and he biffed it and ate a mouthful of mud. Those are the things that help. They're the little things. People always think it has to be, oh, I don't have 3 hours to dedicate to meditating. I'm not a church person, or I'm not this. You can take 3 minutes a day, a minute in the morning, a minute in the afternoon, a minute before you go to bed. Tell the universe, thank you. And think of things you're happy and grateful for, because no matter how bad your life is right now, are you breathing? Well, you got something to be grateful for. And that's kind of where I start. And we just kind of move on from there.
Mhm. That's a very, very good place to start, is getting in contact with yourself and what's important to you, getting your mind clear and focused on what it is you want to create instead of what it is that you lost. You
Yes.
mentioned, uh, are there any examples that you can bring up that will illustrate how these practices can make a transformation either in your life or in somebody's life that you've worked with?
Actually, yes, I will tell you a story of a lady I've been working with. Her son was military. I do a lot of work. I do a lot of mediumship work and a lot of meditation, and we call it shadow work, especially with people whose child chose to leave this planet by their own hand. I prefer that verbiage as opposed to suicide. That's very traumatic. When you are the parent of a child who chose to leave this planet by their own hand, there's so much guilt. There's so much sadness. And when you get into that, that brings on other issues. I work a lot. I obviously, as you can tell, I do a lot with military families. And I do these programs through a military nonprofit that I work with. But we started with meditation and gratitude. She did not believe that she could ever feel her son. She couldn't, she was stuck. So we worked on gratitude. We worked on her pulling out pictures of him when he was a baby. We worked on the fun, happy stories. But see, then we worked on shadow work. We worked on pulling out the stuff inside yourself that doesn't allow you to believe that, well, I made that up in my head, or, you know, does God really care enough about me to listen to me? We worked on those kinds of things. And after 6 weeks of doing the practices and the classes that I teach, she I'm getting tingles. She said she was sitting in her chair and she could feel him, and he would always come up behind her and kiss her on the neck. And she called me. She was in tears and she's like, "Oh my God, I know he was here today. He was kissing my neck and he was telling me, Mom, I'm okay." Because, see, another thing, we think this is it. Earth school is it. No, I'm like in ninth grade right now. I'm hoping to graduate. I hope I graduate enough I don't have to keep coming back. But Earth school is not it. The spiritual world is more real than the physical world, because everything is energy and vibration. So by taking her through these practices, she now can feel and have conversations with her son. So then we actually ran a test where I told you I have conversations with my son. So my son said, "You know what? I'm going to show her a sign. I'm not going to, you tell her she's going to see a sign. I want her to call you tomorrow, tell you what I showed her." And she was like, "Well, I'm not that good. I'm not that connected." She got the sign. And you know what that did for her? She absolutely believes now that she can converse with her son, her mother, her aunt, any of her ancestors. But what it did for her was she had days she couldn't get out of bed to go to work due to the depression and the sadness. She's engaged. They're moving to a new place. She's wearing bright colors. She's happy. She has more peace and love in her life now than she had even before she lost her child. And she told me, she's like, "I just walk around feeling grateful and happy." And that's why I do this. I don't do this to be famous or to make a ton of money. I want everybody who's grieving or has sadness to know what that feels like.
I'm curious to know though, because you mentioned earlier that even though a loved one has passed, they're not really gone. And that's something that I feel in my soul and my spirit and in my heart. But I want to give you a chance to kind of elaborate on what that means to you and how you convey that message to others.
Oh, that's a good question. That's like a 2 hour long class. Okay, right, right after my son passed, we had an incident where I was getting ready to bury him. I was dealing with the military, I was dealing with family, so on and so forth. And I had kind of let go some of my spirituality, and I was like, he's dead, he's gone, I'm sad. I was in such a low vibration, it was horrible. He came to me one night and we had a conversation, literally like you and I are having right now. And he kept saying, get grandma a new car. And I kept saying, honey, I have other things I need to do. Can I take care of that first? Nope, I want you to get grandma a new car. Okay. He had left her some of his life insurance. I said, I'll take grandma and I'll get her a new car, but she doesn't need one now. I'm dealing with the military, so on and so forth. Then my mom calls me like at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I said, Mom, come over and have coffee with me. And she goes, I can't. My car just broke down. And I said, oh, okay. So I said, okay, Kenny, I will buy grandma a new car. I'm just going to lend her mine now. Is that okay? And I told my mom, I'll lend you my car. I'll come pick you up. I got to tell you what happened. This is now, granted, I'm getting a little out of sequence. I had tried to eat a bottle of sleeping pills a couple days prior to that. And he came to me and said, don't do that. Don't ever do that again. But I thought my mind was making it up because I was in such grief. I couldn't believe that it was actually him. Well, then the car thing happened and I was like, okay, it is him. And Michelle, why are you doubting yourself? Because I have lived this my whole life. But when a trauma happens, it's almost like if you took a bowl of spaghetti, mixed it all up and threw it back in your brain. That's what a trauma does to your brain. It was explained to me by a trauma therapist. It's kind of like having a mini stroke. So you forget the things you know, you second doubt yourself, you don't necessarily believe the things you used to believe. Your religious practices can go out the window, those types of things. So by him connecting with me in real world things, like the fact that his grandmother needed a car, it was like, bam, you need to get back into your spirituality. You know he's not gone. It's like we're having this conversation right now, and he's right here. I can feel him, and I teach people how to feel that. Every spirit has its own vibration. And once you learn how to connect to the vibration of your loved one, you will always know that vibration versus, say I was doing a mediumship reading for you on your father. His vibration's not going to feel like my son's vibration. And so that's how I know. I don't know how to explain this. I know he's there. I know he's there. I want to teach people that you can feel them. Like you've probably felt your father and you probably know his vibration. So you know when he's around you. But say my son Kenny popped in to see you, that's a vibration you're going to have to go, okay, wait a minute. Who is this?
Right.
And
Right.
when you teach people how to, meditation really is the best way to connect. And the
Mm.
reason why meditation can be so scary for some people, like I can't sit for 2 hours going, I can't even do it for 30 minutes. My monkey brain takes over. So when I teach meditation classes, I teach it in a more gentler way. Do it for 2 minutes, do it for 3 minutes. I tell people praying is talking to God, and then take a couple deep breaths, and listening or meditating, listening is listening for the answer from spirit or God. And I consider that meditation. You can do that while you're mowing the lawn, doing the dishes. It doesn't have to be so restrictive that it scares you away from making it an everyday practice. And I think that's probably one of the biggest lessons I teach people is no, you don't have to sit cross-legged and chant for 20 minutes and make your mind go completely blank. Because as you know, between our ego, subconscious, conscious mind, they're always going at each other. So if you can just shut it down for 30 seconds and receive anything, and even if all you receive is, hey, love you, have a great day, that's still a spectacular message. So that is how I start people and take them into feeling different vibrations, is meditating, but not in a restrictive way.
Right, right. And meditation has, completely transformed my life when I discovered it. I think that people kind of take it for granted at first. I think that we don't realize how important it is to kind of disconnect from all the external stimulus that we
Mhm.
experience on a day-to-day basis. I actually find it impressive how society has been able to successfully distract us from ourselves. The person that we spend the most time with and the person that needs our attention the most is the last person that gets that attention and gets that
Mhm.
time and space to feel the feels and to think the thoughts, all of the things. So I'm 100% on board and co-signing your recommendation for people to be still and let the inner experience be, because that's the only way we get the answers, like you said, that we need.
It is. I love the meditations becoming more mainstream. For example, I told you I work for American Military Families, a nonprofit. We help people with TBI, PTSD. We actually help take care of the entire family. My Gold Star classes are through AMF, um, but they're actually teaching veterans now how to meditate to kind of help deal with their PTSD and to help them rewire, the neuroplasticity of your brain, the things you think and say to yourself, how to rewire those connections in your brain. And I think that is so awesome that we are taking what we do at AMF, we call it, we take you from suicide to success. But now that the mainstream and the military is actually using meditation, mindfulness, neuroplasticity to help these people with their issues, I think is amazing. I think that is a much better way to help treat them than just tossing antidepressants and anti-anxieties at them.
Right, right. Hey, Michelle, can you tell us a little bit more about your volunteer work and the various initiatives that you're involved with, other than Gold Star Families?
Actually, we just came back from an event in Utah. They did a fundraiser, and every year they honor a different family. And this year they honored my son. But we raise money. We do what we call intrusive interventions. We take suicidal vets, and you don't have to be suicidal. We take vets that have alcohol problems, drug addiction problems, um, any vet that's struggling, PTSD, TBIs. We do intrusive interventions. We don't just, it's not a one and done with us. We mean it when we say American Military Families. Until you tell us to leave you alone, we're going to try and get you into the support groups. We're going to try and get your wives in the support groups or your spouse, if because the whole family serves. And when you come home damaged as a veteran, your whole family still has to deal with that. So we treat the entire family. So my part in what I do for AMF is it's twofold. I teach meditation and mindfulness, and I also work on survivor's guilt because I tell people um, veterans are scared to death of me because I'm a Gold Star mom. And the reason is they'll tell me because I came home. Your son did not. 90% of us would kill to meet the men who served with our child because you have stories about my child I'll never hear unless you tell me. I did not serve with him. I know what he was like when he came home. I know what he was like when I raised him. So I work on the survivor's guilt, which, by the way, never really goes away, but it does help alleviate it. And then we work on the mindfulness, calming down. And then we're affiliated with a lot of different programs to get you help for your TBI, your PTSD. They're usually inpatient programs if you are severe. We have a lot of programs for substance abuse. We have on our board and part of our AMF team, we have our own psychologists. Everybody who helps mentor the veterans and their families are veterans and or family members who have actually already gone through it themselves. So I'm not sitting here telling you how to make your life better. I'm telling you how I made my life better. And I'm hoping it works for you. So, yeah, AMF, we have a lot of outreach programs. We're now attempting to do police first responders, and all veterans. Unfortunately, because we're no longer, well, not unfortunately, but unfortunately, we're losing more veterans and police and first responders to suicide as opposed to active war. And that suicide, as you know, and as you know, the reason I prefer to say they left by their own hand really has a bad connotation to it. People will talk to me about my son because he died a hero, but don't talk to Jane because her son killed himself. Well, you know what? He's still her son. He came back with issues. There's nothing she should ever have to be ashamed of, and there should never be a stigma attached to that. And just because your child left by their own hand doesn't mean you don't love them. Doesn't mean they didn't. Okay, I have to explain how I believe heaven and hell works for this to make sense. And I know you're going to edit this and you're going to need to, so thank you. During my whole life, I've been shown by my guides, my spirit guides, I see heaven as we'll say a crystal ball. And then you take the rings of Saturn, but as they spiral out, you get further and further away from the center. I believe when we leave this planet, if we weren't a good person, we go to one of the outer rings and we work on ourselves. We get to review our lives. We get to see how we affected other people, and we get to move closer to the source. So I don't actually believe that you go to hell. I believe we create our own hell. I believe in an all-loving spirit in God. All loving. And if Ted Bundy had a grandma, I'm sure she hated what he did and felt he deserved to be punished. But I can almost guarantee you somewhere in here, she still loved him. So that is how I believe the spirit and God looks at us. He loves us no matter what, and he allows us to decide how we're going to punish ourselves. So when I work with people, families who lost a loved one by their own hand, I really try to get them out of that, well, did my son go to hell? Because it says in the Bible, if you kill yourself, you go to hell. But it also says in the Bible that Jesus and God loves you. So those are two conflicting ideas. And now I've babbled on and totally forgot what the question was. I tend to do. You have to forgive me. I'm getting really old.
It is A-okay. You're answering these questions really thoroughly and touching on the many levels that I think a lot of people kind of don't have the patience for, don't have the curiosity for. You're taking us where we actually need to go and need to be. So I do appreciate you for opening up your heart and being completely transparent, completely open, completely vulnerable too, in the moments where you're like, hey, this is what's on my mind, on my heart, on my spirit. This is my experience. I may not be as eloquent as I'd like to be in explaining it, but you're still here. You're showing up. And I know that people that are listening to this right now are better off for having heard your voice than if they hadn't. So I appreciate you.
Well,
Yes.
thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to get the message out because honestly, one of my biggest goals now is I come across veterans and veterans' spouses and family members that don't even know that American military family exists, and they don't know what services are out there for them. And I would love for them to find out and hear about us so that if they need help, we can get them help. We don't charge you for help. We are a group of volunteers who have lived this, and it truly comes from our hearts.
Right.
I want to heal as many people as I possibly can.
What would you say is the most rewarding aspects of your volunteer work?
Oh, well, now you're going to make me cry. I work and I'm around veterans, albeit a lot of them damaged veterans, a lot. And I'm mom. They call me mom. So here's the most rewarding aspect of what I do is showing them that they're loved and they're needed and they're appreciated. And yes, you are afraid of me because I'm a gold star, but I want to love the pain out of you. It's like we just at this intervention. It's like, I want to love the pain out of you. And then I want to feed you because I'm a mom. So the most rewarding thing is when I lost my son, I lost a very big part of myself. I know he's here, but I don't have the physical of him here. I have the spiritual of him here. So by helping the people, his brothers and sisters who served, it fills my soul. It fills me back up with that love that I need, that gives me the love, compassion, and energy to continue. Because I'll be honest, um, this takes a lot of energy to do what I do. It's not always easy to do what I do. I am very open and honest about who I am and what I've been through because I don't feel like I can reach you on a heart to heart or soul level if I'm deceptive or lying. Um, by being open and honest, like telling you that, yes, I actually tried to take my life, that gives a veteran who was in that situation permission to open up to me. And when they open up to me and they come back to me 3 or 4 or 5 years later, or I will start crying. I just got an email from a lady who said, "Thank you so much. You saved our family, American military families." And I personally spent a lot of time with this vet because he actually served with my son. She's like, "You saved your organization and what you guys did saved my family." I can't think of any. There's no greater reward for me than that. I do it because I have so much love in here now that I just want to share it.
Right. Yeah. That's beautiful. And it's funny. It's very interesting how God puts us on our path, right? But when you don't resist it, when you don't deny it, some of the most beautiful experiences that you could have, both physically, externally, but also emotionally, um, are just unmatched to anything else. So it feels good, and I feel your energy through the screen of somebody who's living in her purpose. So that's amazing. That's
Thank
really.
you.
What would
Yeah,
you say though
I,
is like to work with you?
what is it like to work with me?
Yeah, from your client's perspective.
Oh, well, um, I will warn you, I have no filter. I tend to say whatever's on my mind. My husband's always telling me just because I went in here, it doesn't have to come out here. I'm very open, I'm very honest, I'm very blunt. I am working on being a little more gentle. But to work with me right now, there's different ways to work with me. You can work with me in person through AMF. You can work with me on Zoom calls and the classes that I'm teaching on like I told you, what did I told you what we just named it? Learning to live in gratitude and finding your heart center. That is going to be a Zoom class, again, offered through AMF, completely free of charge. And yeah, we do a lot of give and take, a lot of questions and answers, but you are going to get how I meditate, how I did shadow work. I'm going to give you homework. I'm going to ask you to do the homework. I'm going to ask you to come with an open heart, be open and honest. And yeah, if you don't do the work and you don't put the time in, nobody can help you. I could tell you, I can give you all the ingredients to make what I think would make your life better. But until you practice them, it's basically words on a page that you're ignoring. So to work with me, oh, there's a lot of ways to work with me. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching. I actually have a couple clients now that they're not military, but their spouses have passed. So I do some one-on-one coaching. And I do have, you can reach me again through AMF. There, I don't put limitations on how I try to meet you where you're at. That's the way I need to phrase that. Working with me is we'll have a conversation and then I'm going to try and meet you where you're at.
Mhm. Yes, indeed. And that's what we need. More people to not project where you should be or where everybody else is, but to
Right.
find compassion and find empathy for, the funk that you may be in currently and hold your hand to get out of it. So what's the website again that anybody listening right now can use to get in contact with
They can go to amfgy6.org
you? Mhm.
or amf100.org. I'm a board member. You can look me up and find all my information right there, and email me or call me. Or I'm the only times I'm not available is if I'm sleeping. So I
Yes.
won't answer the phone. I do turn it off so I can get some rest. But yeah, absolutely. AMFGY6.org. It stands for American Military Families Got Your Six. So
Yes, indeed.
yeah. And
Yes.
they've been around for 20 years. The founder is an amazing woman. She is not military. She started this organization because her brother came back physically from Vietnam, but never really came back from Vietnam. And
Mm.
this is her heart. She puts her heart and soul into this. And all of the volunteers, I would say, do the same thing. And like I told you, all of our counselors have been through it. Like we have an alcohol and addiction counselor. She just got her 10-year coin, and she just graduated from college, and she is now a therapist, and she works with vets on addiction issues. So you're not going to get somebody who just learned it from a book. If you hook up with AMF and you come to us, you're going to be hooked up with people who've actually lived what they're telling you.
Yes, indeed. So anybody listening right now, I know that there are some of you that are excited, you're inspired to go ahead and get to know Michelle a little bit better and maybe have that one-on-one conversation. I want to invite you to go ahead and find the link. It's going to be down below, up above, left or right side, depending on where you're watching this. Do not hesitate. Run to the link. Go ahead and schedule a call, set up make some arrangements to go ahead and get that support that you need, because I think the hardest part about going through grief or going through some of the hardest life challenges that we experience is doing it alone. So you don't have to suffer in silence. I want you to reach out. I want you to speak up and get some of that support. And Michelle, I really appreciate you spending the time that you have with us so far. We have a couple of more questions, while I still have you, so we're not done yet. But I
Okay.
just want to take a moment to express that gratitude and express that appreciation for sharing your life story and being so open with us. My next question for you
Hmm.
is, what advice would you give to someone who is currently struggling with the loss of a loved one?
Oh, you're not alone. What you said, reach out. I know there were times I just didn't, my husband worked graveyard, and there were times I didn't want to be alone, but I also didn't want to really talk about my story. I was kind of sick of my own story. So I remember reaching out to someone through AMF, and all I wanted them to do was sit on the phone with me, breathe until I fell asleep. And she sat there for 3 hours with me. So my advice to you is, no matter what you're going through, you don't have to do it alone. Let somebody help you. Don't feel ashamed or embarrassed or, God, I sound needy. I've been there. Sometimes you just need somebody to just sit on the phone with you. I've had women call me up and say, I'm feeling horrible. I don't really want to talk. Would you like to just sit here? We'll FaceTime and have a cup of coffee. Take that first step. Take that first step and ask for some help, because you don't have to go through this alone. And then hopefully you get to a place where you realize you're never alone. Spirit is always with you. Plus, you'll have human beings here on this planet that will now want to be with you.
Right. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. So I want to go kind of bring it back to like a personal level, right? So we're supporting other people, but they get to connect with you as a human being as well, somebody who's gone through this. I want to know, how has your work with grief and loss impacted your own personal growth and outlook on life?
Oh my God. If you ask my husband, he'll tell you it's changed my life completely. Yeah, grief is tough. And the first couple of years, you're, especially when it's a child, it's a fog. I went from being, which I'm actually ashamed to even admit this, but I went from being angry with God or spirit. I got very negative. It did affect my health. And then, like I said, having those conversations with Kenny, it was like, hello, wake up. You know what to do to fix this. I I can't even put it into words. I have so much love and peace and things to be grateful for in my life. And it's like they fall out of the sky into my lap now. It's almost like, and this is going to sound a little arrogant, but it's like every day I wake up so excited. I tell the universe, ooh, I can't wait to see what new wonderful things you're going to put in my path today. And I expect it. And almost every day something wonderful happens. I have turned into such a different being than even when I was before I lost my son. I've always been into spiritual practices. I've always done mediumship. I've always done readings and stuff for people. But this connection I have now, and especially the connection I have with people who have left this planet by their own hand, um, is so strong. I mean, I can talk to them like they're standing here in the room with me, and sometimes it's annoying, and I have to tell them I'm off. No more talk today. I'm done. But it's allowed me to know that there's so much more to life than this. God, Spirit, wants me to have the best life I want. And I'm the only one holding myself back. And right now I'm on a great trajectory. I would love to reach the hearts of millions of people and have them feel as good as I feel. Even when I'm sick, I still feel good. I'm not a wealthy person. I'm a middle class working person. I live in a halfway decent neighborhood. I got a bunch of kids and animals and whatever, and life happens. But every time something happens that I want to get into a negative attitude, or I'm like, oh crap, why'd that happen? I remind myself, okay, what's the lesson in this? And let's not do that again. And the best answer to that is I have an overabundance of peace, joy, and love in my life. I'm an extremely blessed person. I'm blessed.
Yes, indeed. And it's beautiful to see. It's beautiful to see. And I do want to support you every step of the way. If there's any way that I can, in reaching the masses, and spreading that positivity. But we'll talk about that. Well, all right, go ahead.
I said I would love that. I mean, that's probably our biggest. Like I said, we've been around for 20 years, and we have the hardest time getting our name out there because we don't have big budgets. The people that work for AMF, we don't get paid. So if you make a donation to AMF, 50% of it's not going to administration. We work hard, and the hardest thing for us, since we don't actually have an advertisement budget, because we put all that money towards the veterans and the families and the Gold Star families. So it's trying to get the word out that, hey, we're here. We're here and we want to help. And if you want to help us, we want to invite you in.
Yes, indeed. So we'll do that. We'll figure out what that looks like, and we'll definitely move forward on that. You're really good at answering all the questions even before I before I ask them. So I'm gonna ask you this, right? It's the question that I always ask to kind of wrap up the interview, because it's important to give people like actionable steps. I feel like once you're in the space, in the energy of addressing some of the very deep issues that we've just brought to the surface, it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense to act on it right then and there. So I want to
Yes.
end on like something that can give people that are listening right now an action step. And that question, Michelle, is what can somebody listening right now do in the moment to live a little bit more by design and less by default?
There are two things I would recommend, and these are the two things I actually push in my classes. First one is walk around and find things to be grateful for. Do a gratitude journal. Even if you only write down one thing a day and the rest of your day is crappy, start with a gratitude journal. The second one is look in the mirror and remind yourself that you are a wonderful, beautiful being. Because, see, God doesn't make junk. God does not make junk. So no matter what you're telling yourself in here, my first two recommendations would be do a gratitude anything, a gratitude walk, a gratitude journal. And when you're brushing your teeth in the morning, start looking in the mirror and saying, wow, I love you today. Or, hey, your hair, something small. Start small. Start small. Start with gratitude and start with love. And love has to be directed towards yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, you're going to run out of energy. And I mean, you can't fill up somebody's cup from an empty teapot. You have to fill up your own cup first. And that starts with some self love. I realize that's much easier said than done. I actually, and you can edit this out if you want, being Native American, I actually make what I call prayer bundles. And one of my biggest sellers, my daughter owns a crystal shop, is the self love prayer bundle. If you want to reach out to me, I will tell you how to make one for yourself. You don't have to purchase one. I know people think it sounds silly. You're going to feel ridiculous looking in the mirror. But honest to God, the first thing you need to do is show gratitude and love yourself. You got to love yourself because it's hard to give to others if you don't have it in here already.
You said it. You said it. I couldn't have said it any better. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being with us today.
Thank you, Talmadge. I really enjoyed this, and I'm not as nervous now. If I ever do this again, I won't be so jittery.
Yes, indeed. We'll definitely run it back. I'm celebrating you for jumping out
Thank
of your
you.
comfort
Thank
zone
you.
and doing the things for sure. And everybody that's listening, as always, love, be well, and don't forget to have the guts to follow your guts. Peace.
Yes, and spirit be with you.